guys have a Halloween joke for me?
If you grew up in St. Louis, you know that Halloween treats are not just given, they must be earned through jokes. We came out to American Legion Post 400 in Fenton for a trunk-or-treat event, and even though it's not Halloween yet, most kids are still telling jokes.
So no one quite knows when jokes started getting told in St. Louis. We do know that it is special to us and one other city in the Midwest, but it seems to have started in the early 20th century.
Amanda Clark is a public historian at the Missouri History Museum. She says it's still unclear why St. Louis and one other city, Des Moines, Iowa, have this tradition. But there are some theories. To understand how this custom may have developed, we need to go back to the 19th century.
We start seeing Halloween traditions show up in St. Louis in the 1860s, 1870s.
At that time, Halloween parties became popular, particularly for women.
And the thing that gets pulled out in those parties, which I find really fascinating, is they all focused on different types of activities that would help a young woman figure out who her future husband was going to be. So it's all about the future and not about ghosts, but it's about connecting somehow on the spiritual plane to your future.
Halloween then began to shift more towards mischief and pranks.
You see this transition happen from the mid to late 1800s. It's adults having these Halloween parties and banquets, and then you have, seems like a younger set of teenagers and young people having parties that get out of hand and destruction ensues.
The 1944 film Meet Me in St. Louis includes scenes about historic Halloween hijinks.
Here, throw that on the fire. I'm the most horrible! I'm the most horrible!
According to reports at the time, vandalism, stealing, wearing costumes, and trying to scare people were just some of the ways people played pranks on their neighbors. But this destructive tradition began to get out of hand. On Halloween night in 1938, a 15-year-old boy named Wilford Brohammer was breaking streetlights and pulling fire alarms with friends. The teens then threw some rocks at a window on Indiana Avenue. A resident, 70-year-old William Fairs, claimed he fired his gun to scare away the pranksters, but he accidentally shot Brohammer in the leg. Luckily, the boy survived the wound, but unfortunately, tragedies like this were not uncommon, so Halloween traditions began to move away from dangerous pranks.
And it becomes more focused on parties and costumes, and so your costume becomes the pranks and mischief. When it comes to trick-or-treating, no one quite knows for sure where it gets its start. There is a newspaper mention in the early 20th century of the phrase trick-or-treat, but we don't know if that's where everyone got that idea. But we do know that prior to World War II, kids were going around doing the trick-or-treat, asking for candy, and then after World War II, it stops for a little bit, but it does resume after World War II.
Clark says telling jokes while trick-or-treating was another way to encourage kids to avoid mischief.
Some of the theories are that as those pranks were getting out of hand, it became an in-between option of how about you just tell me a joke instead of TPing in my yard or doing something like that. How about you just tell me a joke first and then I'll give you the candy. So that kind of exchange is one of the theories. No one knows though where it started.
And though St. Louis shares this tradition with Des Moines, Clark says telling jokes is an important part of the culture in our region.
I think what makes the telling jokes so special is it is something that in a world in which we are all increasingly very similar, right? Like our traditions are similar, our tastes are similar, the foods we eat are all very similar. We like to cling to the things that say, no, this is ours, this is special. Whether you're from here or not, telling a joke at Halloween, it's part of living here.
For Living St. Louis, I'm Veronica Moheski.